The snow fell heavily that night, covering the city in a thick white blanket. Andre Washington pulled his car to a slow stop at the red light, drumming his fingers on the steering wheel. The heat blasted from the vents, keeping the cold at bay. As CEO of Tech Future Solutions, he'd stayed late again, poring over quarterly reports long after his employees had gone home. The light turned green, and he was about to press the gas when something caught his eye. A small figure huddled at the bus stop, shoulders hunched against the brutal winter wind. Andre squinted through the falling snow. The city buses had stopped running an hour ago. Who would be out in this weather, especially this late? He drove past slowly, then found himself hitting the brakes. Something didn't feel right. Andre glanced at his watch, almost midnight, then looked back at the bus stop in his rearview mirror. The figure hadn't moved. "Not my business," he muttered to himself. But even as the words left his mouth, he was already making a U-turn. Andre pulled up to the curb near the bus stop. Now he could see it was a teenage girl, maybe 16 or 17, with no proper winter coat, just a thin jacket pulled tight around her body. Her hands were tucked under her arms and she was shivering visibly. He rolled down his passenger window. "Excuse me," he called out. "The buses stopped running a while ago." The girl looked up, startled. Her face was pale with cold, her lips taking on a bluish tint. For a moment she stared at him, saying nothing. "You need a ride somewhere?" Andre asked, keeping his voice gentle. "It's freezing out here." The girl's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "I'm fine," she said, her voice barely audible over the wind. Andre nodded, understanding her caution. A strange man in an expensive car offering help to a teenage girl at midnight. He'd be suspicious too. "My name's Andre Washington. I run a tech company downtown," he said, pulling out his company ID card and holding it up. "I just wanted to make sure you're okay. It's dangerous to be out in this cold." The girl hesitated, studying him. "I'm waiting for someone," she finally said, but Andre could hear the lie in her voice. "Look," Andre said, "I have a daughter about your age. If she was stuck out here in this weather, I'd want someone to help her. The temperature's dropping. Below zero tonight." He paused, noting how badly she was shivering. "At least let me take you somewhere warm. A diner, police station, shelter, whatever you want." A particularly strong gust of wind blew through, and the girl hugged herself tighter. She looked up and down the empty street, then back at Andre. "How do I know you're not some creep?" she asked bluntly. Andre respected her directness. "Smart question. Look, you can call anyone you want on my phone, or I can call someone for you. We can go wherever you feel safe." The girl studied him for another long moment, her young face showing a weariness beyond her years. Finally, she stood up, her legs stiff from the cold. "Fine," she said, taking a step toward the car. "But I'm sitting in the back and I'm keeping my phone out the whole time." "That's completely fair," Andre said, unlocking the doors. The girl quickly slid into the back seat, immediately wrapping her arms around herself as the warm air hit her. Andre could see her relax slightly at the heat, though her eyes remained alert and watchful. "I'm Leah," she said after a moment, her voice still cautious. "Nice to meet you, Leah. Where can I take you?" Leah looked down at her hands, which were red and chapped from the cold. I don't really have anywhere to go right now." Andre absorbed this information carefully. "No family or friends you can stay with tonight?" She shook her head, slightly. "It's complicated." "What about a youth shelter? I know there's one downtown that..." "They're full," Leah cut in. "I already tried. Said to come back tomorrow." Andre nodded slowly, thinking. "When was the last time you ate?" The question seemed to surprise her. "This morning, I guess. Had half a sandwich. There's an all-night diner about 10 minutes from here. How about we go there, get some hot food, and figure out next steps?" "My treat." Leah considered this, then nodded. "Okay." The drive to the diner was mostly silent. Andre kept the radio on low, giving Leah space. In the rearview mirror, he could see her slowly rubbing her hands together, trying to get feeling back into her fingers. The diner was nearly empty when they arrived, just a couple of truck drivers at the counter and a tired-looking waitress refilling coffee cups. Andre led Leah to a booth by the window, making sure she had a clear view of the door and parking lot. "Get whatever you want," he said, as they settled in with menus. Food always helps when you're trying to figure things out. For the first time, a small smile flickered across Leah's face. "Thanks." They ordered a full breakfast for Leah and just coffee for Andre. As they waited for the food, Andre noticed Leah's eyes growing heavy, the adrenaline of the situation wearing off now that she was warm and safe. "So," he said gently, "want to tell me why you're at a bus stop at midnight in a snowstorm?" Leah tensed slightly, then sighed. "My mom's boyfriend kicked me out, said I was eating too much food, taking up too much space." She laughed bitterly. Mom didn't stop him, she just stood there. Andre felt a pang in his chest. "I'm sorry to hear that. How long have you been out there?" "Since this afternoon. I went to my friend's house, but her parents said I couldn't stay. Then I tried the shelter." She shrugged. "Was going to ride the bus back and forth all night, but then they stopped running." Their food arrived, and Leah immediately dug in, eating, with the hurried focus of someone who doesn't know when their next meal might come. Andre sipped his coffee, thinking. He couldn't just drop this girl off somewhere and drive away. Not in good conscience. "Leah," he said after she'd eaten about half her meal, "I have a spare room at my house. My mother lives with me. She's in her 70s and helps look after my daughter when I work late. You're welcome to stay the night, get cleaned up, and tomorrow we can figure out a better plan." Leah's fork paused midway to her mouth. "Why would you do that?" "You don't even know me." Andre smiled slightly. "Because 25 years ago I was in a similar spot. Running away from a bad situation, nowhere to go. Someone helped me when they didn't have to. Changed my life." He pulled out his phone and pulled up a family photo. "That's my mother, Vivian, and my daughter, Zoe. She's at her mom's house tonight. We share custody. You can call either of them right now if it would make you feel better about coming. Over." Leah studied the photo, then looked up at Andre. "You're really a CEO?" "Really am. Started my company from nothing 15 years ago." Leah finished her food in thoughtful silence. Then she looked up at Andre, her eyes both guarded and hopeful. "If I come with you, I can leave whenever I want, right?" Andre nodded. "Absolutely. I'll even give you money for a cab if you feel uncomfortable at any point, but I promise you you'll be safe." Leah took a deep breath. "Okay." Outside, the snow was still falling, but not as heavily as before. They walked to Andre's car, and this time Leah got in the front seat. As they pulled away from the diner, Andre noticed her shoulders weren't as tense anymore. "You're safe with me," he said quietly. "Let's go." And for the first time that night, Leah believed it might be true. The drive to Andre's house took about 20 minutes, winding through snow-covered streets that grew wider and quieter as they left the busy part of the city behind. Leah stared out the window, watching as apartment buildings gave way to larger homes with actual yards. She hadn't said much since they left the diner, but her mind was racing. "Almost there," Andre said, turning onto a tree-lined street. The houses here weren't huge mansions, but they were nice. The kind of homes Leah had only seen on TV shows. Andre pulled into the driveway of a 2-story brick house with warm lights glowing from several windows. "Home sweet home," he said, turning off the engine. Leah hesitated, her hand on the door handle. Was she really about to walk into a stranger's house? But something about Andre felt trustworthy. The way he talked about his family. The fact that he'd given her space and hadn't pushed for more information than she wanted to share. "My mother's probably still up," Andre said as they approached the front door. "She watches those late-night game shows." Sure enough, when they stepped inside, the sound of a TV could be heard from somewhere in the house. The home smelled like cinnamon and clean laundry. Leah stood awkwardly in the entryway, suddenly aware of her dirty clothes and unwashed hair. "Mom?" Andre called out. "We have a guest." A moment later, an older woman appeared in the hallway. She wore a colorful housecoat and slippers. her gray hair pulled back in a neat bun. Her eyes widened slightly at the sight of Leah, but her face quickly softened into a welcoming smile. "Well, hello there," she said, her voice warm and rich. "I'm Vivian. And you are?" "Leah," she replied quietly. "Leah needs a place to stay tonight, Mom," Andre explained. "She got caught in the storm." Vivian nodded, her eyes taking in Leah's thin jacket and worn sneakers. "You poor thing, you must be frozen through. How about some hot tea?" Before Leah could answer, Vivian was already heading toward what must be the kitchen. Andre smiled apologetically. "Mom's solution to everything is either tea or food," he said. "Come on, I'll show you where you can stay tonight." He led her up a staircase to the second floor. "Bathroom's right here," he said, pointing to a door on the left. "And this can be your room." He opened another door to reveal a simple but comfortable-looking guest room with a queen-sized bed, dresser, and desk. "There should be clean towels in the bathroom cabinet," Andre continued, "and I can find you something to sleep in. My daughter keeps some clothes here for when she stays over." Leah stepped into the room, taking it all in. "This is really nice," she said softly. "Make yourself at home. Come down for tea when you're ready. No rush." Left alone, Leah sat on the edge of the bed, feeling the soft comforter beneath her fingers. Part of her still couldn't believe this was happening. People like Andre, successful, well-off people, didn't usually notice kids like her, let alone invite them home. After using the bathroom and washing her face with warm water, Leah made her way back downstairs. She followed the sound of quiet voices to the kitchen, where Andre and Vivian sat at a round table, mugs of tea in front of them. "There she is," Vivian said warmly. "Come sit, dear. I've made you some chamomile. Helps with sleep." Leah slid into a chair, wrapping her hands around the warm mug. "Thank you." "Andre tells me you've had a rough day," Vivian said, her tone matter-of-fact but kind. "No need to talk about it if you don't want to. But you're welcome here as long as you need." Leah glanced at Andre, surprised. "Really?" Andre nodded. "We have the space, and tomorrow we can figure out more permanent solutions. But for now, you're safe here." Something about those words, the same ones he'd spoken in the car, made Leah's throat tighten with unexpected emotion. She took a sip of tea to hide it. "So," Vivian said, clearly sensing Leah's discomfort. "Tell me, are you still in school?" Leah nodded. 11th grade. Well, supposed to be. Haven't been going much lately." "Smart?" Vivian asked directly. The question made Leah smile a little. "I was on honor roll before things got complicated at home." Andre leaned forward. "What subjects do you like?" "Computer science," Leah answered without hesitation. "And math. I'm good with numbers." Andre's eyebrows raised. "Is that right? My company is a tech firm. We work on software development." "What kind of software?" Leah asked, her interest genuinely piqued. For the next 20 minutes, the conversation flowed surprisingly easily. Andre explained his company's work, and Leah asked thoughtful questions that made him smile with approval. Vivian watched them both, occasionally adding her own observations, which were surprisingly sharp for someone who admitted she couldn't even program her own TV remote. Eventually, Leah's exhaustion caught up with her. She tried to hide a yawn, but Vivian noticed immediately. "Time for bed," she announced. "You need rest, young lady. Things always look clearer in the morning." After saying goodnight, Leah made her way back upstairs. Andre had left a clean t-shirt and sweatpants on her bed, both too big but soft and comfortable. She changed quickly and slid between the clean sheets, her body relaxing into the first real bed she'd had in 2 days. Despite her exhaustion, sleep didn't come immediately. Leah stared at the ceiling, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the house. She could hear Vivian and Andre talking downstairs, their voices too low to make out words. Were they talking about her? Deciding she wasn't worth the trouble? Without meaning to, Leah found herself crying, silent tears sliding down her face and into the pillow. The kindness of these strangers had somehow broken through her defenses in a way that all the hardship hadn't. She wiped her eyes roughly with the back of her hand. Crying wouldn't help anything. She needed to be smart, to figure out her next move. Eventually, she drifted into a deep, dreamless sleep. Morning came with the smell of coffee and bacon. Leah woke disoriented, taking a moment to remember where she was. Sunlight streamed through, curtains she hadn't bothered to close the night before, illuminating the simple, clean room. She checked her phone, 8:17 a.m. After using the bathroom and attempting to make herself presentable, Leah headed downstairs. Vivian was in the kitchen, humming to herself as she flipped pancakes on a griddle. "Good morning, sunshine," the older woman said cheerfully. "Sleep well?" "Yes, thank you," Leah said, hovering uncertainly in the doorway. "Don't just stand there, come help me with breakfast," Vivian said, gesturing to a bowl of batter. "Andre's on a work call, but he'll join us soon. Man works too hard, if you ask me." Leah found herself smiling as she stepped into the kitchen. There was something comforting about Vivian's no-nonsense attitude. Soon she was put to work setting the table and pouring juice. Andre appeared just as they were finishing up. "Sorry about that," he said. "Client in California doesn't understand time zones." He looked at the spread of food on the table and then at Leah helping Vivian. "Looks like you two have been busy." Breakfast was a surprisingly comfortable affair. No one pushed Leah to talk about her situation, instead keeping the conversation light. The weather, a funny story about Andre's early days starting his company, Vivian's complaints about the new host of her favorite game show. It wasn't until they were clearing the dishes that Andre brought up the inevitable. "So, Leah," he said carefully, "we should probably talk about next steps." Leah nodded, her stomach tightening. This was it, the part where they'd send her on her way with maybe $20 and wishes of good luck. "Can we sit in the living room?" Andre suggested. More comfortable there. Once they were settled, Leah perched nervously on the edge of an armchair, Andre and Vivian on the couch. Andre spoke again. "I've been thinking about your situation. There are a few options we could consider." "I can't go home," Leah said immediately, her voice firm despite the fear churning inside her. "I won't." Andre nodded. "I understand. And I wouldn't suggest that without knowing more about your home life, which you don't have to share unless you want to." He paused. "There's the youth shelter, which might have space today. Or we could contact social services, see what options they suggest." Leah felt her shoulders slump. She'd been through the system before, briefly when her mom had been hospitalized for an overdose 3 years ago. It hadn't been terrible, but it hadn't been good either. "Or," Andre continued, exchanging a glance with his mother, "you could stay here for a while, at least until we figure out something more permanent." Leah's head snapped up. "What?" "We have the room," Vivian said matter-of-factly. "And it sounds like you could use some stability right now." "But why would you do that?" Leah asked, unable to keep the suspicion from her voice. "You don't even know me." Andre leaned forward, his expression serious. "Because someone did it for me once. I told you that last night. When I was 17, my home situation was not good. My high school basketball coach took me in, gave me a safe place to live during my senior year. It changed everything for me." "We'd need to make it official, of course," Vivian added. "Talk to social services, get temporary guardianship, make sure everything's legal." Leah looked back and forth between them, searching for any sign they weren't serious. Finding none, she finally asked the question pressing on her mind. "What's the catch?" Andre smiled slightly. "The catch is you go back to school, you keep your grades up, and you help around the house. Vivian isn't your maid." "And no lying," Vivian added firmly. "We can handle the truth in this house no matter how difficult. But lies break trust, and trust is everything." Leah sat back, overwhelmed. Was this really happening? Could she really trust these people? But as she looked at their open, expectant faces, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'd like to stay, if you're sure." The smile that spread across Andre's face was genuine and warm. Then it settled. Welcome to the family, Leah. At least for now. Vivian stood up, satisfaction evident in her expression. Good. Now that that's settled, you can help me with the laundry. No free rides in this house. As Leah followed Vivian toward the laundry room, she glanced back at Andre, who gave her a wink and a thumbs up. For the first time in months, Leah felt like she could breathe freely. She wasn't naive enough to think all her problems were solved. But for now, in this moment, she was safe. And sometimes, that was enough to build on. The next 2 weeks passed, in a blur for Leah. True to his word, Andre had contacted social services the day after she arrived. A social worker named Mrs. Chen had visited the house, speaking with each of them separately and together. Leah had been nervous, expecting to be shipped off to a group home, but somehow Andre had worked his magic. Temporary emergency placement, they called it. Legal paperwork that allowed Leah to stay with Andre and Vivian while more permanent arrangements were considered. School had been the next hurdle. Leah had missed nearly a month of classes at her old school across town. After some discussion, Andre had enrolled her in the high school just 10 minutes from their house. A fresh start, he'd called it, though Leah had her doubts. Today marked her first full week at the new school. Leah stood at the bus stop, actually waiting for a bus this time, unlike the night Andre had found her. The January cold still bit through her clothes, but now she had a proper winter coat, a gift from Vivian, who had declared Leah's old jacket fit for nothing but cleaning rags. The bus pulled up and Leah joined the stream of students heading home. She found a seat near the back next to a window and pulled out her phone, another new addition to her life. Andre had insisted she needed one for safety, though Leah suspected it was also his way of keeping tabs on her. Not that she minded, really. It was nice, in a strange way, to have someone care where she was. When she got home, and it was starting to feel like home, though she tried not to get too comfortable. Vivian was in the kitchen rolling out dough for something that smelled amazing. "There you are," the older woman said without looking up. "How was school?" Leah dropped her backpack by the door. "Fine, got an A on my math test." Now Vivian did look up, a proud smile crossing her face. "That's wonderful. Tell Andre when he gets home. He'll be thrilled." Leah shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant, though secretly she was pleased by the praise. "It's just math. Always been easy for me." "Don't diminish your achievements," Vivian said, returning to her dough. "Own your talents. Now wash up and help me with these cookies." Soon Leah was elbow-deep in cookie dough, following Vivian's instructions on how to shape the perfect chocolate chip cookie. As they worked, Vivian chatted about her day, the neighbor's noisy dog, the ridiculous price of eggs at the grocery store, a funny commercial she'd seen on TV. Simple, normal things that Leah had never realized could feel so comforting. "Andre called earlier," Vivian mentioned as they slid the first batch into the oven. "Said he has something to discuss with you tonight. Sounded important." Leah's stomach tightened immediately. "Did he say what about?" Vivian shook her head. "No, but don't look so worried. If it was bad news, he would have told me." Despite Vivian's reassurance, Leah couldn't help but worry. Had Andre changed his mind about letting her stay? Had her mom finally decided she wanted her back? The social worker had mentioned that her mother had the right to reclaim custody if she could prove she had a stable living situation. By the time Andre's car pulled into the driveway that evening, Leah had worked herself into a state of quiet panic. She sat at the dinner table, pushing food around her plate, barely tasting Vivian's excellent pot roast. "Someone's quiet tonight," Andre observed, hanging up his coat. He came to the table, loosening his tie and kissing Vivian on the cheek before taking his seat. "How was school, Leah?" "She got an A on her math test," Vivian answered when Leah just shrugged. Andre's face lit up. "That's great news, see? I knew you were smart." Leah managed a small smile but couldn't keep quiet any longer. "Vivian said you wanted to talk to me about something." Andre nodded, serving himself some potatoes. "I do, but let's eat first. I'm starving, and Mom's cooking deserves our full attention." The meal seemed to last forever. Leah barely spoke, answering direct questions with short responses. Finally, When the plates were cleared and Vivian had served the cookies they'd made earlier, Andre leaned back in his chair. "So," he began, "I have a proposition for you, Leah." Here it comes, she thought, bracing herself. My company runs a program for high school students interested in coding and tech. It's an after-school thing twice a week. The winter session starts next Monday. He paused, watching her. "I think you should join." Leah blinked, not expecting this at all. "Me?" "Yes, you. You said you like computer science and you're clearly good with numbers. The program teaches basic coding skills, app development, that sort of thing. But," Leah hesitated, "don't those programs cost money?" Andre waved a hand dismissively. "It's my company. Consider it a scholarship." Leah bit her lip, considering. It did sound interesting and definitely better than hanging around the house all afternoon. But there was something else bothering her. "Won't the other kids know I'm staying with you? That I'm like, charity case?" Andre's expression grew serious. "First of all, you're not a charity case. Second, no one needs to know about our arrangement unless you choose to tell them. As far as anyone at the company knows, you're just another student in the program." "It's a wonderful opportunity," Vivian chimed in. "And it would look good on college applications." College. The word hung in the air between them. Leah hadn't even been thinking that far ahead. Before meeting Andre and Vivian, she'd been focused on more immediate concerns. Where to sleep, what to eat, how to avoid her mother's boyfriend's temper. "You don't have to decide right now," Andre said, seeming to sense her uncertainty. "Just think about it." Later that evening, after helping with the dishes, Leah retreated to her room to tackle her homework. She'd just finished an English assignment when there was a soft knock at her door. "Come in," she called. Andre poked his head in. "Got a minute?" Leah nodded, closing her textbook. Andre came in and sat on the desk chair, while Leah remained cross-legged on her bed. "I wanted to check in," he said. "You seemed worried at dinner. Everything okay?" Leah shrugged. When Vivian said you wanted to talk to me, I thought maybe you were going to say I couldn't stay anymore." Andre's eyebrows shot up. "What? No, not at all. Why would you think that?" "I don't know. That's usually how things go for me, I guess. Nothing good lasts." Andre was quiet for a moment, studying her. "Leah, I made you a promise. You're welcome here as long as you need to be here. That hasn't changed." Leah nodded, wanting to believe him, but still wary. "And the coding program? You really think I'd be good at it?" "I do." Andre smiled. In fact, I brought you something." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a book. "This is what got me started when I was about your age. It's pretty basic, but it covers the fundamentals of coding. Thought you might want to look through it before deciding on the program." Leah took the book, turning it over in her hands. Introduction to Computer Programming. The cover was worn, the pages slightly yellowed with age. "This was yours?" she asked. Andre nodded. "My high school coach gave it to me. Said I needed something to focus on besides basketball. Turned out he was right." Leah opened the book carefully, noting handwritten notes in the margins. Neat, precise handwriting that she recognized as a younger Andre's. "Thank you," she said softly. "I'll read it." "Good." Andre stood up. "And Leah? It's okay to let yourself feel safe here. I know it's hard to trust after what you've been through, but we're not going anywhere." After he left, Leah stayed up late, reading the programming book. The concepts came naturally to her, like pieces of a puzzle fitting together in her mind. By the time she finally fell asleep, her decision was made. The Tech Future Youth Coding Program met in a bright, modern space on the first floor of Andre's company building. Leah followed Andre through the security doors that Monday afternoon, trying not to look as nervous as she felt. "The instructor's name is Raj," Andre told her as they walked. "He's one of our best developers. Been teaching this program for 3 years now." They reached a glass-walled room where about a dozen teenagers were already settling in at workstations. Andre gave her an encouraging smile. I'll let you get to it. My office is on the 4th floor if you need anything." He hesitated, then added, "I'm proud of you for trying this, Leah." Before she could respond, he was gone, heading toward the elevators. Leah took a deep breath and stepped into the classroom. The next 2 hours flew by. Raj, a cheerful man with a quick sense of humor, introduced the basics of JavaScript, guiding the students through simple exercises. Leah found herself completely absorbed, barely noticing the time passing. "You've done this before," Raj commented, stopping by her workstation to check her progress. Leah shook her head. "No, never. It makes sense to me." Raj looked impressed. "You have a natural aptitude. Keep this up and you'll be teaching me by the end of the session." By the time the class ended, Leah had completed not only the assigned exercise but 2 of the challenge problems Raj had written on the board for anyone who finished early. As the other students packed up, chatting and comparing notes, Raj approached her again. "Mr. Washington mentioned you might have a special interest in this field," he said. "I can see he was right. Would you be interested in some additional resources to work on between classes?" Leah nodded eagerly. "Yes, definitely." Raj smiled. "Excellent. I'll email you some links. And feel free to ask questions anytime." Walking out of the building, Leah felt a strange new sensation, a bubbling excitement about the future. For the first time in a long time, she could see possibilities beyond just getting through the day. Her phone buzzed with a text from Andre. "How was it?" Leah smiled as she typed back, "Amazing. Can't wait for Thursday's class." The response came quickly. "Knew you'd like it. Vivian's making your favorite chicken for dinner to celebrate." Leah put her phone away, still smiling. The cold January air didn't bother her as much as she walked to the bus stop. Something was changing inside her, a small seed of hope taking root, growing stronger each day. That night at dinner, she surprised both Andre and Vivian by sharing details about the class without being prompted, her words tumbling out in excited bursts as she described what she'd learned. "Slow down and breathe, child," Vivian laughed. "The food's not going anywhere." "Sorry," Leah said, grinning. It was really cool. I didn't know coding could be so, creative." Andre nodded. "That's exactly what hooked me. It's like learning a new language that lets you build things out of thin air." "Raj said I have a natural aptitude," Leah said, unable to keep the pride from her voice. "Of course you do," Vivian said matter-of-factly. "You're a smart girl, always have been, I'd wager, even when life was making it hard to show it." Later, as Leah was helping clear the table, Andre pulled an envelope from his briefcase. "Almost forgot. This came for you today." Leah looked at the official-looking envelope with trepidation. "What is it?" "From the court. About your temporary guardianship hearing next week." Leah's good mood evaporated instantly. "Oh." Andre put a hand on her shoulder. "Hey, it's just procedural. Mrs. Chen says everything's on track. This is just confirming the date and time." Leah nodded, but the anxiety had returned. Next week, a judge would decide if she could stay with Andre and Vivian long-term, or if she'd have to go back to her mother. The thought made her stomach churn. "One day at a time," Andre said gently, seeming to read her thoughts. "Right now, all you need to focus on is school, coding class, and helping Vivian with those dishes before she comes after both of us." Leah managed a small smile. "Right. One day at a time." That night, as she worked on the coding exercises Raj had sent her, Leah tried to keep her mind off the upcoming hearing. She was building something new here, not just in her computer programs, but in her life. And for the first time, she dared to hope it might last. The courthouse loomed large and imposing, its stone steps crowded with people coming and going. Leah tugged nervously at the collar of her new blouse, another gift from Vivian, who had insisted she needed to look respectable for the hearing. Andre walked beside her in a crisp suit, projecting calm confidence that Leah wished she could borrow. "Remember what Mrs. Chen said?" Andre reminded her as they climbed the steps. "Just tell the truth, that's all anyone expects." Leah nodded, though her throat felt too tight to speak. The truth seemed simple enough. She wanted to stay, with Andre and Vivian. She didn't want to go back to her mother and her mother's boyfriend, Ted. But would that be enough? They found Mrs. Chen waiting for them in the hallway outside the courtroom, her familiar clipboard tucked under one arm. The social worker smiled reassuringly. "There you are, right on time." She glanced at her watch. "We have about 20 minutes before we're called. Let me go over a few things." As Mrs. Chen walked them through what to expect, Leah's attention drifted. Down the hall, a familiar figure had appeared, her mother looking surprisingly put together in a dress Leah had never seen before. And beside her, his hand possessively on her arm, stood Ted. Leah froze, her heart pounding. She hadn't seen either of them since that terrible night when Ted had thrown her out. Her mother caught her eye briefly, then looked away, her expression unreadable. "Leah?" Andre's voice broke through her panic. "You okay?" She nodded stiffly. "My mom's here and Ted." Andre glanced down the hall, his jaw tightening slightly. "That was expected. They have a right to be here." He put a gentle hand on her shoulder. "But remember, you have rights too. And you have us in your corner." Before Leah could respond, the courtroom doors opened, and a clerk called their case number. It was time. Inside, everything happened with a formality that made Leah feel small and insignificant. The judge, an older woman with steel-gray hair and kind eyes, reviewed documents and listened as Mrs. Chen presented the case for temporary guardianship. Then it was Leah's turn to speak. Standing at the small podium, she could feel her mother's eyes on her back. "Leah," the judge said, her voice surprisingly gentle, "can you tell me how you came to be living with Mr. Washington?" Leah took a deep breath and told the story. The fight with Ted, being told to leave, the freezing bus stop, Andre finding her. She tried to keep her voice steady, but it wavered when she described how Ted had pushed her against a wall, screaming that she was eating them out of house and home. "And how have things been in Mr. Washington's home?" the judge asked. At this, Leah's voice grew stronger. "Good, really good. I'm back in school. I'm learning coding. Vivian, that's Mr. Washington's mother. She's teaching me to cook." She paused, then added simply, "I feel safe there." The judge nodded, making a note. "Thank you, Leah. You may sit down." Next came Andre, who spoke confidently about his desire to provide Leah with stability and support. "Your Honor, I was once in Leah's position. Someone stepped up for me when I needed it most. I'm in a position to do the same for her." Then, to Leah's surprise, her mother approached the podium. She looked nervous, fidgeting with the strap of her purse. "Ms. Parker," the judge said, "I understand you're not contesting this temporary guardianship. Is that correct?" Her mother nodded. "Yes, Your Honor, I'm not in a position to provide for Leah right now. I've enrolled in a recovery program, trying to get my life straight." She glanced back at Leah. "I want what's best for my daughter. Right now, that's not with me." A lump formed in Leah's throat. She hadn't expected this. Her mother had always insisted she was fine, that she didn't have a problem, that she could quit any time she wanted. Ted shifted angrily in his seat but remained silent. Leah noticed a court officer watching him carefully. After a few more questions, the judge made her decision. "I'm granting temporary guardianship to Mr. Washington for a period of 6 months, with monthly check-ins from social services. Ms. Parker, I commend your decision to seek help, and I encourage you to continue with your recovery program." She looked directly at Leah. "Young lady, it seems you found some good people to look after you. Make the most of this opportunity." And just like that, it was over. 6 more months with Andre and Vivian. 6 months to figure out what came next. Outside the courtroom, Leah saw her mother heading for the exit, Ted following close behind. "Impulse," she called out. "Mom!" Her mother turned, surprise crossing her face. Leah walked over, conscious of Andre hanging back to give them space but staying within sight. "You're really in a program?" Leah asked, searching her mother's face for signs of deception. Her mother nodded. 30 days in, it's hard. But I'm trying, Leah. She glanced toward Ted, who stood scowling by the elevator. I've got some other things to figure out, too. Mr. Washington is nice, Leah said. His mom, too. They're taking good care of me. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. Good. That's good. She hesitated, then added, I'm sorry, Leah. For everything. For not being stronger. Before Leah could respond, Ted called impatiently, Karen, let's go. Her mother flinched slightly. I have to go. Maybe I could call you sometime, if that's okay. Leah nodded slowly. Yeah, that would be okay. As her mother walked away, Leah felt a strange mix of emotions: sadness, hope, anger, relief. Andre approached quietly. You all right? He asked. I think so, Leah said, watching as her mother and Ted disappeared into the elevator. I've never heard her admit she has a problem before. Andre nodded. That's a big step. Recovery isn't easy, but it's possible. I've seen it happen. They walked out of the courthouse together, the winter sun surprisingly bright after the dim. Interior. Vivian was waiting in the car, eager for news. When they told her the outcome, she clasped her hands together in satisfaction. Well, of course the judge made the right decision. Now let's celebrate with lunch at that diner you like, Leah. The next few weeks settled into a comfortable routine. School, coding class twice a week, homework, and family dinners with Andre and Vivian. Leah's mother called once, the conversation awkward but civil. She was still in the recovery program, taking it one day at a time, as she put it. Then, just when things were starting to feel stable, everything threatened to fall apart. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. Leah was walking home from the bus stop, enjoying the slightly warmer February air when a car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down to reveal Ted's angry face. Get in, he demanded. Your mother wants to see you. Leah took a step back, alarm bells ringing in her head. No, if she wants to see me, she can call, like she did before. Ted's face darkened. Don't get smart with me, girl. Your mother's a mess because of you. Living with some rich guy like you're too good for your own family. Leave me alone, Leah said, pulling out her phone. I'm calling Andre. Ted threw open the car door and stepped out, making Leah back up quickly. You're coming with me. Now. Is there a problem here? The new voice came from behind Leah. She turned to see one of her neighbors, Mr. Davis, walking his dog and watching the scene with concern. Ted hesitated, clearly not wanting witnesses. Family matter, he said curtly. Nothing to worry about. Leah? Mr. Davis asked. Everything okay? She shook her head. No. This man isn't supposed to be here. I don't want to go with him. Mr. Davis stepped closer, his friendly face now serious. Sir, I think you should leave. Now. Ted glared at them both, then pointed a finger at Leah. This isn't over. You belong with your mother, not with some stranger who's probably just using you. He got back in his car and drove away with a screech of tires. Leah's hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold her phone. Thank you, she said to Mr. Davis. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come along. Let's get you home, the older man said kindly. And you should tell Mr. Washington about this right away. By the time Andre got home that evening, Leah had worked herself into a state of panic. What if Ted came back? What if he tried to take her by force? What if her mother wasn't really in recovery at all, but had just said that to look good for the judge? We need to report this to the police and Mrs. Chen, Andre said firmly after hearing what happened. This is harassment and it violates the court order. What if they can't do anything? Leah asked, pacing the living room. What if next time there's no one around to help? Andre exchanged a look with Vivian. Leah, sit down for a minute, please. She sat reluctantly on the edge of the armchair, her whole body tense. I made you a promise the night I found you, Andre said, that you would be safe with me. I meant it then, and I mean it now. Ted can try whatever he wants, but he will not take you anywhere you don't want to go, not while I have anything to say about it. But, no buts, Vivian interrupted. Andre and I protect our own, And like it or not, young lady, you're one of ours now. Despite her fear, Leah felt a warmth spreading through her chest at Vivian's words, one of ours. She'd never really belonged to anyone before. Her mother had always seemed more attached to whatever boyfriend was currently in her life, or to the substances that helped her escape reality. The police took the incident seriously, especially given the existing court order. They increased patrols in the neighborhood and advised Leah on safety measures. Don't walk alone, vary her routes, keep her phone charged and accessible. For 3 days, Leah jumped at shadows, watching every car that drove past the house. Andre drove her to and from school, and Raj agreed to let her attend coding class virtually for a while. Then on Friday afternoon, the call came. It was Mrs. Chen, her voice tight with concern. "Leah, your mother's in the hospital," she said without preamble. "There was an incident with Ted. She's going to be okay, but she's asking for you." Andre drove her to the hospital, his face grim. In the car, he tried to prepare her for what she might see. "Mrs. Chen said your mother has some bruising on her face," he said, gently, "and a broken arm. But she's stable and the doctors say she'll recover fully." Leah nodded, staring out the window. She should feel something, shouldn't she? Panic, maybe, or grief. But all she felt was a strange, detached calm, as if she were watching someone else's life unfold. Her mother looked small in the hospital bed, her face bruised on one side, her arm in a cast. She smiled weakly when she saw Leah. "Hey, baby," she said, her voice hoarse. "I'm sorry you have to see me like this." Leah stood awkwardly by the bed, not sure what to do. Andre had stepped outside to give them privacy. "What happened?" Leah asked. Her mother sighed. "Ted found out I was still going to meetings. He'd been drinking. He got angry." She looked away. "Same old story, right? Except this time I called the police myself after he left." "You did?" Leah couldn't hide her surprise. "Yeah." Her mother looked back at her, and Leah saw something new in her eyes, a determination that hadn't been there before. "I'm done, Leah. With Ted, with that whole life. My counselor says I need to focus on my recovery before I can be the mother you deserve. But I'm trying. I really am." Leah felt the numbness inside her crack slightly, letting in a tiny sliver of hope. "I believe you," she said quietly. Her mother reached out with her good hand, and after a moment's hesitation, Leah took it. They sat in silence for a while, the beeping of hospital machines the only sound. "Ted's going to jail," her mother said eventually. "Assault charges, and I've got a restraining order." "Good," Leah said firmly. "The thing is," her mother hesitated, "I need to focus on getting better, and that means I think it's best if you stay with Mr. Washington for now. If that's what you want." Leah nodded slowly. "It is. They're good people, Mom. They're helping me." "I can see that." Her mother squeezed her hand. "You look good. Healthy. There's a light in your eyes I haven't seen in a long time." After visiting hours ended, Leah walked with Andre back to the car. The night air was cold but refreshing after the stuffy hospital. "She seemed sincere," Andre commented, "about her recovery." "Yeah," Leah agreed. "I think maybe she is this time." She paused, then added, "She said she wants me to stay with you and Vivian, while she focuses on getting better." Andre nodded. "And how do you feel about that?" Leah considered the question carefully. Relieved, mostly. But also, I don't know, hopeful, I guess. Like maybe someday things could be different between us. "That's a good way to look at it," Andre said, unlocking the car. "One day at a time, right?" As they drove home, Leah watched the city lights blur past the window. 6 weeks ago, she'd been alone at a bus stop in a snowstorm, with nowhere to go and no one to turn to. Now she had a safe place to live, people who cared about her, and a future that actually looked promising. Life was still complicated. Her mother was still fragile. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long time, Leah wasn't facing it alone. When they pulled into the driveway, Vivian was waiting at the door, her face anxious. How was she? She asked as they came inside. Beat up but healing, Andre answered. She's going to be okay, Leah added. And somehow, saying the words aloud, she began to believe that maybe they all would be. 2 years later, the auditorium buzzed with excitement as families filed in, searching for the best seats. Vivian clutched a bouquet of yellow roses, her favorite, chair reserved by Andre in the front row. At 74, she moved a bit slower these days, but refused to miss a moment of this special day. Do you see her yet? Vivian asked, craning her neck to peer at the students gathering backstage. Andre smiled, adjusting his tie for the third time. Not yet, Mom. But the ceremony doesn't start for another 15 minutes. I just hope Karen makes it on time, Vivian muttered, glancing toward the entrance doors. Leah will be so disappointed if she doesn't come. As if summoned by her words, a slender woman with shoulder-length brown hair appeared in the doorway, scanning the crowd anxiously. Andre raised his hand, catching her attention, and Karen made her way toward them. I'm not late, am I? She asked, smoothing her simple but elegant dress, clearly new for the occasion. Right on time, Andre assured her. Leah will be thrilled you're here. Karen smiled nervously, taking the seat next to Vivian. The two women had developed an unlikely friendship over the past year, united by their shared love for Leah, despite their very different lives. 18 months sober next week, Karen said quietly to Vivian, who patted her hand in acknowledgement. One day at a time, Vivian replied, their shared mantra. Andre watched the interaction with satisfaction. So much had changed since that snowy night when he'd spotted a desperate teenager at a bus stop. The temporary guardianship had eventually become a more permanent arrangement, with Karen's blessing. She had focused on her recovery, moving to a small apartment near a supportive community and slowly rebuilding her relationship with her daughter through consistent, if sometimes awkward, visits. Ted was long gone, serving time for assault and violating restraining orders. Karen had finally broken free of the cycle of abusive relationships, attending therapy and support groups religiously. As for Leah, she had blossomed. From a guarded, distrustful girl to the confident young woman who would soon walk across the stage as valedictorian of her graduating class, she had earned a full scholarship to State University where she planned to study computer science in the fall. The lights dimmed, and the principal approached the podium. Andre sat straighter, pride swelling in his chest. The graduating class filed in, and there she was, Leah, in her blue cap and gown, the gold valedictorian cord draped around her shoulders. She looked so grown up, Karen whispered, her voice catching. The ceremony proceeded with all the traditional pomp, speeches from the principal and school board president, recognition of special achievements, the usual remarks about bright futures and new beginnings. Finally, the principal returned to the microphone. And now it is my great pleasure to introduce our valedictorian, a young woman whose academic excellence is matched only by her perseverance and character. Please welcome Leah Parker. The applause was enthusiastic as Leah approached the podium. She adjusted the microphone, took a deep breath, and looked out at the audience. Her eyes found them immediately. Andre, Vivian, and her mother sitting together in the front row. Her family in all its complicated, non-traditional glory. Good evening, fellow graduates, families, teachers, and friends, she began, her voice clear and steady. When I was asked to prepare this speech, I thought about all the usual graduation topics. Looking forward, chasing dreams, embracing the future. All important things, of course. But I kept coming back to one thought. How did I get here? Not just to this stage, but to this moment in my life. She paused, looking down at her notes briefly. 2.5 years ago, I was sitting at a bus stop in the middle of a snowstorm. I had nowhere to go, no plan, no future that I could see. I was just surviving. And then a car pulled up and a stranger asked if I needed help. In the audience, Andre felt a lump form in his throat. That moment changed everything for me, Leah continued. Not just because I found a safe place to stay, but because for the first time in my life someone saw me, really saw me, and believed I was worth helping. She looked directly at Andre now, her eyes shining. That person said 5 words to me that I'll never forget. You're safe with me. Let's go. Simple words, but they were a promise. A promise that was kept day after day through good times and hard ones. Karen wiped a tear from her cheek, reaching over to squeeze Vivian's hand. "I've learned that family isn't always what we're born into," Leah said. "Sometimes it's what we build together, through love and trust and showing up for each other, again and again. I've learned that second chances are precious gifts, both the ones we're given and the ones we give to others." She smiled, looking around at her classmates. "But the most important thing I've learned is that our lives can change in an instant. One decision, one act of kindness, one person believing in us when we don't believe in ourselves. That's all it takes sometimes." Leah straightened her shoulders, her voice growing stronger. "So as we go forward from here, I want to challenge all of us, myself included, to be that person for someone else. To notice when someone is struggling, to offer help without expecting anything in return, to simply say, 'You're safe with me,' and mean it." The auditorium was completely silent now, every person hanging on her words. Because the truth is, we all need that sometimes, and we all have the power to give it. Our diplomas are important. Our future plans matter. But what will define us in the end is how we treat each other, especially those who have nothing to offer us except their gratitude. Leah paused, looking once more at the three people who had become her family, each in their own way. "I stand here today because people believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. My mother, who loved me enough to let me go while she fought her own battles." Karen gave a small sob, her face a mixture of pain and pride. "Vivian, who taught me that tough love and tender care aren't opposites, but two sides of the same coin. And Andre, who saw something in me worth saving on that snowy night and never stopped seeing it, even when I tried to hide it." Andre felt Vivian's hand grip his arm tightly, her own eyes brimming with tears. "So, class of 2027, as we leave this place and move into the next chapter of our lives, I hope we'll remember that the biggest impact we can have isn't measured in degrees or dollars or achievements. It's measured in the lives we touch, the hands we hold, the people we help find their way when they're lost in the storm." Leah smiled, a full, genuine smile that lit up her face. "Thank you, and congratulations to all of us. We did it." The applause was thunderous, many in the audience rising to their feet. Andre stood with them, his heart so full he thought it might burst. Beside him, Vivian dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief, while Karen simply covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking with quiet sobs. After the ceremony, they found Leah amid the crowd of graduates receiving congratulations. She threw her arms around Andre first, then Vivian, and finally a bit more carefully around her mother. "That was quite a speech," Andre said, handing her Vivian's bouquet of roses. Leah grinned. "Did I embarrass you too much?" "Just the right amount," he replied, putting an arm around her shoulders. "I'm so proud of you, Leah. Not just for today, but for everything." "We all are," Karen added, her eyes red from crying, but her smile genuine. "You did good, baby." Vivian snorted. "She did better than good. She did extraordinary. Now, who's hungry? I've got a celebration dinner waiting at home, and those potatoes won't stay hot forever." They laughed, falling into step together as they headed for the parking lot. The summer evening was warm and golden, so different from the bitter winter night when their paths had first crossed. In the car, Leah sat quietly, watching the familiar streets pass by. So much had happened in this city, pain and loss, but also healing and growth. In the fall, she'd be leaving for college, starting yet another new chapter. The thought was both exciting and a little scary. "Penny for your thoughts?" Andre asked, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. Leah smiled. "Just thinking about everything, how different things could have been." "But they're not," he reminded her gently. "You're here. You made it." "We all did," she said, looking at her, mother in the seat beside her, at Vivian in the front passenger seat, at Andre driving them all home. Her family, complicated, imperfect, but real. At home, they gathered around the dining table that had become the heart of their shared life. The good dishes were out, candles lit, Vivian's best cooking spread before them. They talked and laughed, shared memories and plans for the future. Later, as the evening wound down, Andre found Leah on the back porch, looking up at the stars. He joined her, leaning against the railing. "So, computer science at State," he said. "Ready for that?" She nodded. "I think so. A little nervous, but good nervous, you know?" "I know exactly what you mean." He paused, then added, "Your room will still be here whenever you want it. This is still your home." Leah turned to look at him, her eyes serious. "Thank you. For everything. I don't think I've ever properly said that." Andre shook his head. "You don't need to. Seeing you today, hearing that speech, that's thanks enough for a lifetime." Inside, they could hear Vivian and Karen laughing about something, the sound drifting through the open windows. "I was thinking," Leah said hesitantly, "about your story, how your basketball coach took you in, gave you a chance, and then you did the same for me." Andre nodded. Full circle. "I want to do that too," she said, her voice growing stronger. "Maybe not exactly the same way, but I want to help people, make a difference like that." "You will," Andre said simply. "I have no doubt." They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the fireflies begin to appear in the darkening yard. Finally, Leah spoke again. "That night at the bus stop," she said quietly, "I was so scared. I didn't know if I could trust you." "I know. But when you said, 'You're safe with me,' something just, I don't know, clicked. Like I could breathe. Again." She looked up at him. "How did you know exactly what to say?" Andre smiled, remembering. "Because someone once said those exact words to me when I needed to hear them most. Coach Williams, I was sleeping in the school gym. He found me, took me home, said those words." "And they worked on you too?" Leah asked. "Changed my life," Andre confirmed. Some words are like that, simple but powerful. They become true because someone cares enough to make them true. From inside, Vivian called, "Dessert's ready." "Andre, Leah, get in here before I eat all this cake myself." They laughed, turning toward the house, the home they had built together, one day at a time. "Well," Andre said, holding the door open, "let's go." Leah smiled, stepping through. "Let's go." Behind them, the stars continued their ancient patterns, indifferent to the small human dramas playing out beneath them. But in that house, on that night, something rare and precious had been recognized and celebrated. The power of simple kindness, offered at exactly the right moment, to change a life's trajectory forever. It wasn't just Leah who had been transformed by that snowy encounter. Andre, Vivian, even Karen, all of them had been changed by the connections they'd formed, the family they'd created together. Different than they'd planned, more complicated than they'd expected, but stronger and more beautiful for all its imperfections. As they gathered around the table for cake and ice cream, laughter filling the warm kitchen, the world outside might have seen just an ordinary family celebration, but they knew better. They knew the road they'd traveled to reach this moment, and the promise that had made it all possible. "You're safe with me. Let's go."